vitamins, which you can overdose on many different vitamins, especially fat-soluble vitamins. Luckily, she had no negative effects of it, and luckily she talked to me the very next day, so I'm very happy about that. However, that was one of the more nervous times I've ever had, knowing that, holy crap, you can kill yourself doing that. So in terms of that, there's some things negative with gummies too. Like luckily these gummies are a small bottle, but she got that Sam's Club variation, the big old bottle of them, and like, holy smokes. So in terms of that, like you don't have to worry about this kind of protein with that purpose, but like you have to worry about fat soluble vitamins in that sense. Super greens, we already talked about that, but they're just an amazing recovery thing because you're able to get more nutrients consistently when we're reducing that inflammation product. Glucosamine, we talked about that one already too. I think that's right. Yeah, glucosamine. That glucosamine again is another thing to recover quickly from workouts. So a couple of these things are pretty nice because they can use them in multiple different stages. Super greens, I would say if people can handle the flavor of super greens, they're a really, really good tool. A little bit more expensive, unfortunately. The super greens are $50. However, they have a ton of value to them. Workout supplements. So here's a category that, again, is very specific to doing workouts, but people give us a lot of questions about workout supplements. So pre-workout, I recommend if you're not working out in the evening, this is really like, I wouldn't want to have a pre-workout anytime after the 4 o'clock time frame, right? It depends on the time to go to bed. So some people do work out at 4 o'clock, they don't go to bed until like 2 o'clock in the morning for work shifts and stuff. That would be different. But I'm looking at the average person going to bed at 10. I wouldn't want to take a pre-workout after 4 p.m. So realistically, for the evening people, at least in our gym, I would recommend not doing pre-workouts. Morning people, okay. So it has caffeine already in it. Can be a source. They'll use it from different forms of caffeine anhydrous. They'll use it from green teas. They'll use it from goji berry extracts, different things like that. So that's totally good. No more than 100 grams for the negative effects of that. The thing with some pre-workouts is it has called beta-alanine. Our products do have beta-alanine in it, not our BCAA, but pre-workouts too, because beta-alanine can be kind of valuable for workouts, but if some people don't do great with beta-alanine, it makes their skin feel like it's crawling a little bit, right? It's not the funnest feeling. I've had way too much beta-alanine before. It's a vitamin, it's a B vitamin, B6 vitamin, and what it does is it literally makes your face feel like it's itching, it's like crawling. That's why we put a very small amount into our supplement, but it has a very good effect for people. But that's what you have to be careful about. Pre-workouts, not all pre-hour workouts by far are created equal. For a lot of people, when I talk about morning pre-workout, I really think that like if you're somebody that likes just a black coffee, like having a half a cup of black coffee before you come, if you're gonna like have about 45 minutes before you work out, you probably don't want to drink it 15 minutes before you work out because you can sit in your tummy. So we really want that. But pre-workouts are pretty good. Pre-workouts I think are kind of overblown naturally. I just don't think they're really that important. We do carry them because we do get asked about it a lot. However, like that's probably not the first thing I would recommend anybody. Intra-workouts, I like the BCAA. A lot of our clients do like to drink it during the workout. So I understand that's why we talk about it during workout. I don't like to drink it. It matters on how your stomach. I know some people don't like to drink it all during workouts, so don't worry too much about that. The nice part I do like, if you do like it during workout, especially in the morning, is it gives a little sugar to keep blood glucose in check. So when we have, especially people that work out in the morning, we'll get people that towards the end of class kind of like fading on us a little bit, and that's usually a blood sugar crash a little bit, and the glucose, in there we have a little glucose inside of it, and help out with that a little bit. So it does help make sure sustained performance. Our workouts are short enough, 45 minutes. Your performance isn't going to go down that much. It's more like glucose, that's the bigger thing. Creatine. So creatine years ago was a very like, not sure people thought it was like steroids, stuff of that nature. All the studies over the last 25 years have said creatine is probably one of the more important supplements we can take for many reasons. We get creatine naturally through beef meats, specifically beef. We get a ton of it from beef. Creatine is an enzyme or a protein that the body actually produces itself as well. We just can't get enough of it to be able to get good muscle gain. For our clients, I don't worry too much because it's really meant for increasing muscle strength. I want all of our clients to get stronger because our clients aren't chasing after big strength gains, so I don't worry about creatine too much. 5 milligrams twice a day is the best. It makes it in your pre or intra workout. So that's what we don't recommend it a ton of clients. It does have some nice value add. For people that do want to get stronger, it does definitely have some value add to that. There's completely safe. There's nothing bad about creatine. You don't have to worry about it. That's why I bring it up a lot. So there's been a lot of things over, especially people that were early 2000s that didn't know anything about creatine. There was like, that's when they were first trying to study a lot, and there's like people on both sides. But since that point, every study that's come out said, hey, it's no negative benefit of it. The only thing it does, what it does, creatine does, is it fills your muscle cell. So you take the creatine, You drink it, and after about 2 or 3 days, it fills the muscle cells up. So what it does, it pulls in a little extra water, so you actually feel like muscles feel a little bit more, in a sense, defined at the time you have creatine in your system. It feels a little bit more full. The only negative of it is because it's doing that, that when you get off of it, it's going to flood your system out, and you can get a little dehydrated when you're not taking it in terms of like right away after it, but it usually goes away pretty quickly. That's the only negative that comes in, is a little bit of dehydration issues. But usually that's like, we only worry about that when we're working with young athletes that take it, because they're going to be out during the long workouts. This is one that I designed this last year. I've really done a lot of research on protein, and this is one I just recently designed. It's not from anywhere else. This is my thought process on the hierarchy of protein supplements. So the number one thing we get asked about, now number two, three thing, kind of, well, like in terms of we get asked a lot about protein. It's probably not the top thing anymore. It used to be the top thing. We don't get asked too much about it. But protein is the one thing we get asked a lot about. So I think most proteins are good, but not all created equal. And if I went through and told a client, hey, what should I take first? What's the most important things for me? This is the order I'd put them in. Part of it would depend. Like if somebody was like, we're going to talk about whey protein. If somebody's like, I don't eat very much breakfast, I need something for my breakfast, I'd probably go with whey protein as the number one thing. But if I just said somebody was like looking to just improve their overall health, this would be my hierarchy of it. So the first one is collagen. So collagen protein, probably about 10 years ago, was kind of iffy, like it doesn't do anything at all. And they've been doing a lot of studies, a ton of studies on it. Over probably the last 4 or 5 years, really the last 10 years of the study, the last 4 or 5 years I've really dug into it, and it does actually help with the benefits that they always thought it did. So it does increase skin elasticity, which means two things. One, it means yes, it will tighten your skin, but it won't quite tighten it as everybody thinks in terms of like, all of a sudden I'm not going to look 10 years younger because I'm drinking collagen protein. That's where the issue comes in. You know, a lot of the ones that go out there with some of those biotin kind of things, biotin kind of products that are in here, but like they always like, oh, you look 10 years younger. Like, it doesn't do that. All it does is it takes your skin cells, because what it is trying to, the collagen, our skin's all made of collagen. It gives it more tools to use, right? So we're taking good care of ourselves. We're taking care of, we're not being out in the sun too much. We're putting our sunscreens on. We're doing those things. We're eating healthy while eating. What it's going to do is help that skin that's currently there. It's going to help rebuild it a little bit, but it's not going to all of a sudden make you 10 years younger or 3 years younger. It's definitely not. It's going to help the aging process, but it's not anti-aging where it doesn't reduce the side of it, right? It doesn't go in the opposite direction. Very good for hair, joint support as well. We're using biotin for those purposes. Most abundant protein in the body. So we actually have a ton of collagen in our body. That's our skin cells. It's the largest actual organ of our body. But we don't get enough in our current diet to help us actually improve our skin, right? So as we go through the different categories here, it's going to make sure we're eating that real food category of it. Collagen comes from most meats. This is where a lot of the collagen is coming from. You're going to get it from different fats, stuff of that nature. But realistically, in a normal diet, we're just not getting enough collagen. That's why collagen is a pretty good supplement. You can take it in a powder form, which we have a powder up there. Powder form, or you can take it in gummy form. I move more over to gummies for myself. I know Eric can take a lot of collagen. The problem with collagen is another thing. You have to dump it. You have to mix it with something. You have to mix it with a flavored thing. I usually don't like to mix it with stuff, so I just take a gummy form instead. They both have the same effects. It's just more light. This is a little easier to use. But we do carry it in powder form as well. We have a decent amount of people who move over to collagen. The nice thing about collagen too, at least for me, I have a little trouble with lactose. And so like whey protein makes me pretty gassy, and collagen has no effect of that. It's pretty clean, then you don't have to worry about that. So as well, I use collagen mainly as my main source. Number two is bone broth. Bone broth also does the skin elasticity, it helps with that. It has glycerin in it. So glycerin before bed actually can help you get into a deeper sleep. So I don't do it because again, I have trouble with drinking stuff too late at night, but a lot of people will drink like a cup of bone broth an hour before bed, and it'll actually help them with deeper sleep, like a little warm tea before bed. If you like do teas before bed, that's a pretty good thing to be able to do too. Many of the same benefits as collagen. It's not as easy to hide in foods as the reason I have it as number two. Why is it not equal to number one? Because it's number two is I can put collagen powder pretty much in anything, or I can make a gummy out of it. So I can take a collagen powder and I can mix it into like a pasta, because it's just a unflavored thing. You can mix it into something, you put it in your drink, you can pretty much hide it. So you easily get in your diet very fast. Bone broth, there's really only way to have bone broth, and that's to drink it. And so that's the negative of it, is like you have to make sure that you have a good quality bone broth. You have to make sure you're taking the time to drink it, and you have to fit it into your actual diet. That's the only reason it's actually the number 2 category for me. I love bone broth, but not all bone broths are created equal in flavor. So we get one called from a company called Umzu. So we use that one. That's a powder base that we mix in. That's a delicious. I can only really drink it in the wintertime because I don't like the warmness in the summer. But we also, another one's Kettle and Fire is one you can get from the grocery store. It's kind of expensive because you just get like a jug of it, but you go through that in like 2 days. So I think it's kind of expensive. That's why I like to buy powder form instead. It's a little cheaper. We don't have anything currently that we can carry for bone broth. So maybe down the road someday. Right now we don't, unfortunately. But it is my number 2 protein. Number 3 is BCAAs. I love it because of the recovery processes, and I use it personally. I tell a lot of clients we use it as a drink to stave off hunger throughout the day. So because of that, I find it a more useful tool for that. Whey protein is number 4. I don't go any farther on proteins after this, like isoleucines and different proteins, iso-wheys. I try not to go into those. I think those casein proteins, I don't think they're very valuable for fat loss purposes. Muscle gaining, whole different category of thing to talk about. We're not worried about that. We're just worried about fat loss. So in terms of that, whey protein, it's the most complete protein. Meaning, like, out of all the protein options that we have up there, it has all the proteins you need. So it's actually a very good supplement. Meaning, like, it can be something in your diet to actually have as a food. So we love to use whey protein inside of smoothies. I love that as a great tool for people. Not the biggest proponent of protein shakes, unless you need, because the protein shake doesn't fill you at all. It's literally just more protein. If you're somebody that needs just more protein in your diet, and you've already got these other 3 categories taken care of, just using it as a plain shake would be great for that. Otherwise, I love it personally as mainly just a tool to throw in smoothies. So you add that, or I like to throw it in oatmeal. Throw it in oatmeal too. You can mix it in with some things, give some flavor. The one thing I have to say about our whey protein is it is really, really tasty. Whereas in the past, we haven't found great ones. I know the current one that we used to carry, it was okay, but it didn't have a great flavor. We wanted to make sure when we did this time that it tasted good, because our big, so I come back to that, I feel like I'm telling like a story from the 1920s, but back when I started doing whey protein, or protein in general, was like late 1990s, like 1998. I remember the first time my mom bought it for us. It was so thick that I would have to like chew this drink, right? It was so nasty from GNC. And it just like, comes so far that's almost like minutia saying, okay, this doesn't taste good compared. But I remember the day when I was like, anything tastes better than that, so I'll drink anything. However, we are so much trying to continue to get it better and better. We do use different things like when we're trying to like, use sugars and stuff, we're doing more things like monk sugars, not everything's much, but monk sugar and stevia sugars, some things that don't raise insulin levels, which is important too, because what we're trying to do with insulin and fat loss is we do want insulin. We do want it to be, but we don't want it to be low, we don't want it to be high, we want it to be in check. We're trying to use tools like stevia and monk sugars to help out with that. Only complete protein on the list. Lactose causes a lot of gas, and it is easy to get from meat and dairy sources, and that's why I don't think it's the most important thing either, is you can get it pretty easily through your normal eco foods diet. Okay, so here's just some tips. I probably talked a lot of these as we went along to put in your daily routine. So protein, collagen. So to get it, make sure you have to put like collagen into a drink throughout the day. Whey in a shake, bone broth an hour before bed. So some simple ways that you need to get more protein. So we believe that you should have 30% of your diet for fat loss as protein. So let's say you have a 2,000 calorie diet, 30% of that diet should be protein. For men, it's not the hardest thing to do. Most guys eat bigger portions of meat. For females, we find it a little harder. So you just probably want to, sometimes you might have to drink your protein a little bit throughout the day. Totally fine. There's just different ways to do it. I would start with collagen first, and if you got the collagen in your thing, then try to get some bone broth if you like bone broth. Otherwise, whey is another way to do it. When I say shake, I really should have said smoothie. I really like that smoothie better. So here's it's really a micronutrient. It's not probably a supplement, but in my mind, it's a supplement because people don't use it enough. It's salt. I think a good quality salt is game changing. Like Aztec, a peak Himalayan, a Celtic sea salt, and a little bit thicker ones, the ones you actually have to put on. You can get them grinded in grinders and stuff, but you really can't just like shake them out of a shaker because they're bigger, like salt crystals. So even if you're somebody that has high blood pressure, these will actually help lower your blood pressure. Because the issue from high blood pressure, where it comes from, is table salt. Table salt is an iodized salt. It's literally just crap, is what it is, realistically. It has no value. It really is just there for flavor, whereas this actually has nutrients in it. So taking like a little bit of, so we have like just a little thing that we pull the salt out of. and just putting that on salads, putting that on top of our eggs, putting on some type of meal throughout the day. I've even had times where I put it in with milk and mix it together in there. It's so flavorful, it tastes so good, but it actually can help reduce blood pressure. It can help reduce thirst cravings because you're actually getting usually most thirst cravings, one, comes from the lack of water, but also comes from the lack of electrolytes, and that's what they electrolytes. So it's actually, I put it in there as pretty much every slide. I have something to do with salt because I think it's something that's really missing. So cinnamon and curcumin have the exact same properties of what they do. They can reduce inflammation, cholesterol, and blood sugar. So in terms of that, you can use those one of two ways. Cinnamon, you can just like we dump on a white melon and stuff like that, or cumin, on vegetables and meats, or more like a spice that you want that too. So different ways to instantly put those in your diet. Without having to buy, I would ideally rather have people do it that way than do too much with just supplements themselves. That's more natural, it's getting on your food, you're flavoring your food and stuff. Way better way to do it. So I want to give some tips on how to actually do that in your routine. And here's some supplement myths. Natural supplements are better for you. So just be careful with the word natural when it comes to supplements. So every marketing tool out there is like the word gluten, right? They'll play gluten-free bananas. Well, bananas aren't gluten, why would we be gluten-free? But it's a marketing tactic. So the same thing with supplements is they use the word natural. There's certain rules they do have to be able to fit natural, but natural doesn't always mean healthy. It can just mean that they have certain natural ingredients in it, but they have some other things that aren't natural, or they have some way too much sugar in your supplement too. Natural protein, they could have a ton of sugar in it, so it's healthy for you, right? So just be careful with the word natural a little bit. All supplements are the same, not even close. That's where the supplement industry gets really messed up and people get like a lot of issues. I used to use a company called Advocare. I hope this never gets out to Advocare, but in terms of Advocare, the thing I hated about them, they're a multi-level marketing company and anybody can sell them. Well, the issue came with me is I ran into multiple people around here that were selling Advocare, and one of our clients was taking Advocare, but she was also taking Advocare from another person too. And she was using some products that were competing against each other and became very dangerous when they were competing against each other. Supplements can be dangerous. They're just like anything else that too much of a good thing is a bad thing, right? We talked about a little bit ago about the person that ate way too many vitamins. I think the issue is like, not all things are quality, not all things are regulated, so it's very important to make sure you're going to a trusted brand when you're doing that. So just going to Amazon, like Amazon has a lot of good trusted brands on them, but you gotta do your research to make sure they're a trusted place. So there's a lot of things like that. I would honestly say most supplements are coming from Costco or coming from Sam's Club are going to be pretty low quality.
Low quality?
Low quality, yeah. So the issue with it is they get them in bulk. And so here's a good example. So we used to carry a brand called Muscle Farm. Muscle Farm is a really tasty brand. We stopped carrying it mainly because of the Costco issue. So Muscle Farm sold to us and they sold to Costco. Identical looking things, completely different products. So I remember I had to talk to Muscle Farm on the phone because I was confused on how our clients could buy Muscle Farm cheaper from Costco than we could buy as a company. And they say so fast. And like Trevor, that's not the same product. That's a filler. Costco knows that that they come through a thing. What they do is they put a filler in there, and half of that is filler, whereas ours was complete whey. Theirs was a filler product. So the issue is in those bulk companies, what they do is they get their price dirt cheap, but they also take what's called the fillers, the leftovers, stuff that's mixed together. So what they do is they just keep the branding. My thought process, if I was Muscle Farm, I wouldn't allow that because now so your product is crappy or whatever. That's on them. But we had a conversation. That's the first time I was kind of woken up to the idea of like how I always thought it was just a bulk idea. They could just buy so much more than anybody else could. And after that conversation, I realized that shows me already how crappy these supplement companies are. But literally, and I remember because we had a guy who that bought from Costco, and he also bought ours. He's actually one. He just want to try it with him, and he had super upset stomach on one from Costco. And then we used ours like the next month, and his stomach was fine. Completely different price. So just gotta be careful. I just get nervous when there's a company that can sell it for such dirt cheap. It just means that there's a reason they can sell it for such dirt cheap. They're not getting the best product. Now, I also don't think expensive means quality either. So there's companies on the other end of the spectrum. Like, we use this nice branding, our thing looks so cool, our bottle looks really cool, we can sell it for a higher price, we can still get it for super cheap, they can make it for $3 and sell it for $70. There's a lot of companies out there in the same category as well. So be careful, just because it's the most expensive thing does not mean it's the best quality either. The tough part about the supplement industry is it's not regulated in many ways. There are certain things that are regulated, but most of it's not regulated. So in terms of that, it's just a free-for-all, whoever's the best marketer. And so you gotta kind of trust them on that line too. The 30-minute protein rule is pretty false. it really doesn't matter. Your body has built up a lot of protein in general. I think it's important for the recovery aspect, like you need that stuff after a workout in terms of like the BCAAs and stuff to recover from muscle soreness, but actually to build muscle mass, this total amount of protein in your body in general. So if I'm eating protein consistently throughout the day, I have enough building blocks to rebuild that tissue. So I don't need to have it in 30 minutes or an hour and a half later, I don't have to have the protein. My body has protein building blocks. If I eat right now, it's 24 hours before it goes to the system. It's not working on what's in the stomach right now, it's using the stuff to digest it. BCAAs, the only real difference I have with those is why I say a little bit after workouts is because it helps reduce muscle soreness, and that's more of the inflammation properties than it is actually the building blocks. So in terms of that, don't worry too much about protein mode. Pills are better for you than gummies. I know when gummies became big, there's a big pushback against companies that were trying to do pills. Like, hey, gummies you don't get as quality of nutrients in them. That probably was true at one time. Gummies have come a long way than when they've been around a while for now. But the big thing about gummies, the reason I don't have an issue with either one, I just find that you have to be very specific. So when it comes to gummies, the person has to chew their food. If there's somebody that doesn't chew very well, I just probably wouldn't recommend gummies. Because you have to do most of the absorption with gummies in the mouth in the beginning mastication process. So if you don't do that, you're just swallowing it down there, it's moving through your system. I mean, it's getting broken down a little bit because it's a gummy, it's gonna break down pretty quickly in the stomach acid. It's not being absorbed the way it should be absorbed. So it might be better actually doing a pill form there where it can move, because the nice thing about pill form, what they try to do is they actually try to get past the stomach a little bit more and get more of the digestion at the bottom part of it through the colon and intestine. So, but the gummies are pretty much just eating up early. So try to get those chewed if you're gonna do that. So either option just depends, but I don't think one's better than the other. Fat burners are dangerous. It's a myth, but it's true at the same time. So they're dangerous because they're another thing that has most of them have high levels of caffeine, different things like that. You have to be super careful with them. We forever never carry fat burners. Forever never carry them. I was nervous about it. The fat was a big thing, especially with hydroxycut. Like hydroxycut is still out there, but they have a different formula now. But like that was like a very dangerous thing. I was always nervous about that. But the more I learned about different types of ketones and things like that, fat burners actually become valuable, and that's why we went to do this. I had to make sure it had the right things in it I believed in. I do believe caffeine is good. I think caffeine in a certain dosage is good. I think too much caffeine is dangerous. You have to remember when you're using a fat burner, most fat burners are using caffeine. So if you're doing a fat burner in the morning with a cup of coffee, and you don't do well with caffeine, you gotta be a little careful because it's a lot of caffeine at once. So you just gotta be smarter with some of these products that are like that, whereas like a deep sleep, no big deal. Most things are gonna be no big deal. It's more like the things that have the caffeine kind of things. You have to be a little careful on nutrient timing with that. So we do have these supplements days to go to what I call kickoff day really. You guys can have 20% off of anything here or anything you want to order as well. I'll have a code for you. It's just, I don't have a pen for that right now. Then you can actually go to our website too. So we have a work website called justbesubs.org. Because of like still COVID stuff, it doesn't always come that time. Like that stuff I ordered yesterday, but the other day did come in 2 days. They don't promise 2 days, but they try to do 2-day delivery. So the nice part is for us now is our supplements can be sold anywhere, delivered in roughly 2 days for us. So it's kind of cool because we can always do it here. So if we don't have any stock here, you can just go to gcpsubs.com real quick and you can order anything that we have. We have quite a bit bigger list there than I have here. We will be carrying certain ones in stock that I believe people use a lot, like proteins and stuff like that. But we won't carry everything in stock. There are things up there like Astroline, which is a hormone thing for females to help lose body fat. It's a good one, but like most of our clients aren't going to use it, so I'm not going to carry that in stock. We have a testosterone one up there. We recommend females not take it. We recommend guys take it. So I'm not going to carry it here because we're not going to have something that can really use as much. So different things like that over time. Our supplement line will be improving. We just added like pink lemonade, BCA, so the things we are improving over time too. So any questions about anything that either one went over or two that you've dealt with in supplements in the past that you're not really sure about? If you don't, it's okay.
Well, I mean, I know I have lots of questions, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about what they are, exact specific questions. So, there's a lot of other medications I take for
Yes.
like allergies and, you know, my doctor for years had me taking multivitamins and calcium. So I continually to take those.
Yes.
And I don't know how they interact with these other things.
That is a very good question, and I think that's not thought about enough in the supplement industry. Now, most supplements are going to be, a good supplement is going to be pretty natural, which means that it will be more like being a real food. It's the ones that get into the categories of blends. So you'll see, like our blends, we actually label what the things are in the blend so you can actually know, but you'll go look on the back of a product and you'll see something blend, but it doesn't tell what at all. that's the ones that you gotta be careful, because you don't know what's inside of those. Two things you said is multivitamins. I think, honestly, I still believe everybody should take a multivitamin, just because naturally in our diet, we just don't need enough of this guy here. And so, one of two things, I either say multivitamin or super green, one of those two things, because that will cover that, that's the fill in the crack kind of idea. Calcium, I'm guessing, based on certain bone densities and things of that nature. So those are good things. I would say for most products though, like if you ever have a question, especially in our supplements, just please ask me, I'll look into that. But in terms of most products, I think you have to be careful. Blends are where I'm more nervous about. The more natural you can stay with things, the better. So when it's something that's like omega-3, only has omega-3 fatty acids in it. No negative, that's just eating like fish, right? So it's when you get in more like a thermal kind of thing that has multiple things mixed into it, that's when we have to be a little bit more careful. Like even though I do, on this one we do label the things, it's also, these are the blended kind of things that I get more nervous with people that are on multiple medications and how do those fit with those. That would be sometimes, depending on the thing, that's where it's like, okay, can we recommend something else? So like, the example would be, if you're wanting something that's like a fat burner, I might recommend more, like this one, I'm not worried because we did take very specific things for this. With a fat burner, like, okay, you're going to go to a hydroxycut, I'd probably let's do a raspberry ketone, just regular raspberry. Do we know a raspberry ketone is a raspberry ketone? That's all it is. I have no idea what's in that hydroxycut. So trying to keep yourself more to the natural side of products that have less in them is better. The things that you don't want to get into is when you're looking at the bad product, when you get into the other ingredients list, is that list being huge. Because that's when you have to like get what's in there. The idea of supplements way back in the day was literally to not negatively impact medications. Because they're supplements, right? They're supposed to be just taking whatever's lacking in the diet and adding to it. Over time, what has become is there's a lot of money in the supplement industry, for sure. When we were going through this process, I didn't realize how much it costs to get certain things. Like for us to get baseline stuff, because they want us to do so much of it, and so our markup is way less than a lot of companies because we just aren't providing as much as other companies will. But when they started like showing you, okay, if you buy this much, you get to this category, you get all the way down here, you can have this big markup. Like I can see why companies do so much stuff. There's a lot of money to be made in there. But then the issue is when you start to do that, and they start to mix together these different blends of stuff, it gets cheaper and cheaper because they're using fillers from other things. And that's where it gets dangerous. So I just be careful of like blends is what I call it. But I will definitely, anything that you have a question on, just ask me now. I will do my, I don't know if I have an answer right away, but I'll do my research to figure out what those are. So yeah.
I'm gonna try the sleep one, talk about major sleep problems. How, like, far in advance of you wanting to go to sleep, do you recommend taking that? Like,
Yeah.
right before we go to bed or an hour before we go to
30
bed?
minutes. 30 minutes, yeah. You have to give it time for the body to actually digest it, right? So I would say, so most of the supplements will tell you on what you recommend or recommended, but a couple of things that are really good about that, we call nutrient timing, right? So supplement timing is a category too. So if it's oil, it needs to be taken with a meal, okay? Any oil has to be taken with a meal. And the reason is we actually need the enzymes in our stomach to be able to break it down. Those enzymes are activated by food. So we actually need to take oils with that. If it's something that we need a certain result from it in a certain amount of time, so the example would be like we're wanting to get sleep, we have to have our body enough time to get it actually into the stream, right? So that's why like a pre-workout, we talked about a pre-workout needs to be taken like 30 minutes before a workout. Not too far before, we don't want to take it 2 hours before a workout because we'll start to have diminishing returns on that effect. Deep sleep, we think 30 minutes is usually what we recommend in that category. Anything that needs longer than 30 minutes, we probably won't carry as a supplement because that usually means it's very intense, and we don't want intense those kind of things. But yeah, that would be something I'd give about more than a 30-minute time frame. Multivitamins, again, would be something, just going through these products here, multivitamins would be something we want to take with meal. Cleanses can be both categories. It could be taken before, one could be taken during. Thermal is usually before, because you're going to want the effect of the only issue with food with some of those products is if you take them with food, the food absorbs the product too much. So if you take a supplement and it might absorb it. So that each one has its own individual instructions. But some people like they'll take all their supplements just with food, but the food will like the supplements will attach to the food and move through the system with it. You don't absorb it as much.
So to the thermal, you want to take before what?
Before meal. Sorry. Yeah, before meal.
Before meal.
Yes, correct. Yeah, you don't want to use that before meal. It can be 15 minutes up to 30 minutes before a meal. I don't get too strict on that part of it. You just, the closer you get to the meal, the more of the, what I call the diminishing returns, right? So meaning like, if I eat it at a meal, I'll still get some effect of it, but not as much effect as I could if that's 15 minutes for. 30 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm not worried. One issue I have with pills, this is the way I think about supplements in general, is like they have to be convenient. They can't be an annoyance, right? And supplements become kind of an annoyance, so you gotta take this at this time, you gotta take this at this, and that becomes an annoyance, and I don't enjoy that, so we've tried to make sure that there are certain things that have rules and they have to happen at certain times, I get that, but I try not to make it too much, so like when you go to sit down, start prepping your, like microwaving your food, wherever you're doing for the night, you would just take your, not for the night, sorry, you would not want to take this at night, that's caffeine. But in terms of this, you take it, I'm gonna have make my breakfast, I'm gonna take this right as I start making my breakfast, and then by the time I'm going to sit down and eat, I'll be ready for it, so that'd be more what I'm looking for. That's a good question. Yeah, everything, and the funny part about, so this is where the FDA, or not FDA, but the regulating the supplements sucks a little bit, because we do have to tell certain things on the back, meaning like when to take it, how many a serving size is, right? But the serving size isn't always equal to every person. Meaning, I am a 255-pound person, Erica is 130. I'm sorry. She's
That's
a lighter
okay.
person. Sorry, I'm not. Weight don't bother me. Yeah.
I know.
So she's a lighter person, right? So pretty much half of my weight. So in terms of that, what I need for supplements, I just need more stuff because I have a bigger engine, bigger body to fix. Right? So on this, we can only put the standard recommendation. We can't say like how much each individual person does. So that's where you just have to ask me, hey, well, how much of this do I need to take? Most of them do fit the average client size for ours. So our average client size is like something that's like between 150 and 175 pounds kind of category. They're going to fit that standard person. But you know, if you're over 200 pounds, that's when I get a little bit more specific on like you might need to take a little bit more of this product. Or if you're under like 115, we don't have a lot of people in that category, and we don't usually try to get kids to take supplements. But in terms of that, that's when I discuss it as well. Good questions? Any other questions, Greg? All right, guys. Thank you guys for that. I appreciate you guys.